we have to let in private money. On this, I think there is a lot of agreement that you do have to let in private money because it's just not financially feasible for the state to run it. The trickier question is, do you allow for-profit money to come into this sector? My own hunch, and I'm giving you my view, is that yes, there should be room for for-profit money to come into the higher education and in fact to the education sector. The reaction to this immediately, as soon as you say this, people will say that, well, I mean, you want good education to be provided. You don't want organizations that are interested in making profit to be doing this. You want organizations that are interested in imparting good education to be providing education. But I'm fully aware, acutely aware, that a country does not grow by these alone. For a country to flourish, you need the humanities, you need literature, you need mathematics, which is so abstract that there is no commercial utility for that mathematics, but it is still all big cultures, whether you're talking of 300 BC Greece or 20th and 21st century United States or 19th century or early 20th century United Kingdom, you would see a flourishing of disciplines, many of which have no commercial value. To me, the advantage of letting in the private sector into higher education is that it is going to pick up the commercial end of that, freeing government funds, which are much more limited, for disciplines which are vital for a rich culture to develop a rich society in terms of the arts, in terms of humanities, in terms of pure mathematics, pure physics, for which there may not be enough of a commercial market. Money comes into this and allows this segment to flourish. I see that, in fact, the two can be a partnership, the private sector and the state sector, running different segments of this huge agenda that we have in front of us. There was another comment on equity. Let me just remark on that, and there are lots of speakers, so I will then pass this on. Equity can come in two forms. One is, of course, in terms of what I just talked about, which is private sector and higher education. There is another form in which it can come in, which is a bit dangerous. So you will have to have a very good regulatory system, is to invest in students in the form of equity. There are companies in the United States which do that. You have to be careful. There has to be a regulatory system so that people do not get exploited through this, but I think there is scope for that. I'm going to sound actually one word of caution, which I very strictly believe in. When you let the private sector into higher education in a bigger way than we've done in the past, one form of regulation, to me that is a critically important piece of regulation that you do need, is that no student must be cheated when the student is brought into being educated in this privately run university, in the following sense. There must not be hidden charges. You can have big charges, but the charges must be crystal clear, completely transparent. You cannot have sudden charges being laid halfway through the course. You say that we've changed the fees. That's almost like after the person has spent a year and a half, you can't suddenly change the fees on this person. You can't misinform the person and attract this person to your university or a college or institute of higher education by false advertisement about what you're doing. So let the system be completely transparent, and that is where regulation comes in. You have to make it crystal clear what kind of education you're providing, what kinds of placement you're managing to do, and what the charges will be, and then open it up for students to register. I actually don't care too much about quality control being done by the state, as long as it's clear, even if a particular college is not providing very good quality education, as long as that's transparent, so everyone knows that you're going to get poor quality education over here, then if some people are willing to pay to get that poor quality education, I don't see a big reason why the state should come in and stop that. The risk is when the students are tricked into coming into an institution believing that that is of a different kind. That is the thing that we have to protect ourselves against. So let me, with these remarks, pass this on to the next speakers, and maybe I will be able to come in at another point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Shantanu, if you could go next. You've seen this very closely over the years from the school side. Now you are also interested in the higher education side. So if you could give us your views, please.
I think thanks Mohammed. I think the whole debate about for profit, not for profit. To me, from the perspective of being an entrepreneur who's trying to develop a business in education, seems extremely silly, because the fact is that private sector today already owns the bulk of capacity, for at least the incremental capacity that has come up in the past 10 years in education. And we also know for a fact that most of the private but not for profit is actually really for profit that is masquerading as not for profit, because the law of the land does not give an entrepreneur a legitimate chance to build an education business. And when we talk of for profit, do you see the kind of labels that we attach to for profit? I was listening to Professor Kaushik Basu speak. When we talk of for profit, we say exploitation of customer. We talk about cheating of the customer. Why do we think of these words when we think of for profit? I think that the association of a bunch of things on table B with the word for profit in table A itself is the big problem. The biggest issue today is that our customers being exploited because we have not given them enough choice. Absolutely, they're getting exploited. I'll give you an example. My daughter just graduated from grade 12. She got 96% marks. She could not get a college of her choice to do economic honors. That is absolutely silly. That is exploitation of the customer. If a student getting 96% cannot get into a decent college to do a course that she wants, what are we talking about here? The writing on the wall is extremely clear. We are in a state of national emergency as far as higher education is concerned. In fact, as far as all education is concerned. There are 500 universities in India. Technically, all of them, 100% of them are not for profit. Do we associate the flip side of the words? Do we say they are good quality? Do we say that they do not exploit customers? We don't say all of these things. Why aren't we talking about regulator today, even for not for profit? Why do we think of regulator only when we think that if we did for profit, then we need a regulator? Don't we need a regulator today? That is talking about that students should not get exploited, they should not get cheated. The biggest exploitation is when you do not give, on both sides of the equation, when you don't give customers a choice. And on the other side, when you do not permit people to organize themselves in the manner they find most convenient to set up a business enterprise. There is no evidence whatsoever except simply our imagination, our hallucinatory imagination, that for profit will produce bad quality and for profit will exploit the customers. I have been to hundreds of seminars where everybody talks about, there's a big danger to for profit and what is going to happen. I think nothing really is going to happen. The problem is who is going to bell the cat. I think our regulators are scared. The people who are taking policy decisions are scared, but they need not be scared. If you allow for profit money to come into education, I believe what is likely to happen is a very different scenario from the doomsday scenario that is actually being painted. I think the quality standards of all of the education sector in India is going to go up because you are going to introduce the element of competition. We have seen in every sector of our economy, and I don't want to be repetitive, that whenever competition came in, quality went up, prices went down, people have to fight for the customer. Today customers are leaving India and going to Australia, to New Zealand, to the US because we haven't made enough capacity for them here. I think the time